Good morning and welcome to this Ordinary Council meeting for Thursday the 9th of April 2026. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded on Council's YouTube channel. And if we could all please stand for the opening karakia. Tu tawa mai runga, tu tawa mai raro, tu tawa mai roto, tu tawa mai waho. Kia tau ai te mauri te mauri ora, ki te katoa. Oie, huie, tāiki. We have no apologies today, but I'm just noting that Councillor Simpson is online. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? We're all good there. There's no public forums today. No announcements by myself. Are there any announcements by management?
None.
Nothing. We'll move through to confirmation of minutes. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the confirmation of the draft minutes of the council meeting held on Thursday the 19th of March to be confirmed as a true and accurate record of the meeting? A couple of people, Councillor Brownlee and Councillor Lawrence. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Oh, sorry, against? Carried. Are there any minor matters not on the agenda for discussion this morning? Nothing there. Right. We've got a fairly full agenda today. 17 items on here and some slightly bigger ones too. So we'll start off with agenda item 1, and that's the recommendations from the first Citizens Assembly, and it's on page 6 of the agenda. The presenters for the report are Jess Suter-Barron and Danica Rio. They'll come up to the front here, and we've got Thunis as well.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Jess Suter-Barron, Communications and Engagement Team Leader for Napier City Council. Danica Rio and Thunis Cloyter here with me. We're bringing this paper to you. It is material that you have seen already and followed the journey along. The recommendation that we're asking of you is whether officers should now use the material that came from the Citizens Assembly recommendations to prepare material that will be used in pre-engagement for the long-term plan. I'm very happy to take any questions and certainly can go through parts of the paper if it's helpful.
Are there any questions from the team this morning? It's all very quiet. I mean, I'll ask one then, so we're meant to be asking a few more questions. Why is it we need to progress this at this stage?
Thanks for the question. It does feel like we're giving ourselves a long time for a pool build. However, when we did the refurbishment on the existing Napier Aquatic Centre, we gave that facility between 8 to 10 years of additional life, and that was about a year and a half ago. And so in order to put this into the long-term plan, we need to really be thinking about it now, with pre-engagement beginning for the long-term plan towards the middle or end of this year. And so although it is a long way in the future, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done to make sure that sound decisions are being made about what type of facility and where that would be.
Thank you. Right, no other questions from the team? Cool. Any discussion on this from anyone? No? Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation, please? Deputy Mayor Taylor, seconder. Councillor Price, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Through you. I'm actually particularly interested in Part C of this recommendation, and we know the history of the Napier First Citizens Assembly. They've come back with some recommendations. However, that recommendation didn't include the location, and Part C of the recommendations here, or the resolution, is that we direct the officers to develop a project plan. And as the officers have said, it's a long way out. I think it's about currently year 8 in the long-term plan, where there's funding for the aquatic centre, or what development takes place. And so I think it's very prudent that we start that process now. Obviously, there's been discussion about where, and that matter is still to be resolved, and I don't think that's going to be easily resolved. So the more time we have to consider it, the better. So I'm happy to move these recommendations to this resolution.
Councillor Price?
I'd just add to the point of it could take some time to decide where it goes, and so it'll be good to have time up our sleeve.
Yep, correct. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? No? I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you. Shall I stay sitting here?
Sorry? Yeah.
Recommendations.
We'll now move on to agenda item 2, and that's the Hawke's Bay Museum Joint Working Group update. And we've got 4 presenters sitting at the table, Thunis, Jess, Elizabeth and Laura, who are going to present this morning.
Councillors, good morning. This item has been part of your public excluded item, and we had to bring this back for for having it in the open council. And what I want to do is to ask Jess to just give you some background on how did we get to this point of getting to this name.
Sure. The process that we've gone through has been about 2.5 years in the making from the work that I've been involved in, and I know that work happened before that. And it really came about when the new museum building in Hastings was being thought about in its very early stages. And a cultural narrative for that building was prepared by Ngāti Hori, which is the hapu whose land the new building sits on. So from that cultural narrative, there were some suggestions about what that name, what that building should be named. And at the same time, conversations began around the building here in Napier and how those two buildings have this spousal relationship that looks after what we refer to as the Hawke's Bay Collection, which is the collection of 90,000 taonga that are owned by the people of Hawke's Bay and looked after by the Hawke's Bay Museums Trust. So the two buildings have this symbiotic relationship where they together care for the collection. And so it was felt by both councils, but from an officer point of view, but also by mana whenua, that those two buildings should have a name that told people what their function was, but also names for the buildings themselves. And so Ngāti Hori prepared the work for the building in Hastings, and a little bit later did the work for the building here in Napier. So a long process was undertaken with mana whenua, the work that Ngāti Hore and Ngāti Kahungunu did in Hastings was then endorsed by Mana Ahuriri here, and the work came to both councils, Hastings District Council and Napier City Council, but it was kept in a public excluded realm because of the Intellectual Property Office. So we needed to go through a legal process to register those names to the two councils, and that's what kept it in public excluded. So now we're really bringing this to you in a public meeting for any discussion around the names, although both names have been endorsed by the councils and by mana whenua. Did I give enough information?
Yes, I think that's...
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about more about what the names are and where they came from, but through you, Chair, if there's any questions.
Councillor Morley's got a question.
Thank you, team. Thanks, Jess. What other general consultation has been taken with the general community on name? Has there been any past suggestions or anything happening in that area?
No, not in the time I've worked on the project. The naming came from mana whenua for the two names of the buildings, but no, we haven't done public consultation. Laura, do you? Yeah, sure.
If it's okay, through the chair, sorry, if I can just add to that. So when I came here 11 years ago, I had an awful lot of meetings with the, sorry, can you hear that? With the community. And at that time, it was an interesting time at the museum, and there was a lot of feedback from the community. But one of the really consistent pieces of feedback I had was that people did not like the MTG name, and it was quite intense and significant and consistent feedback. So it has always been in my agenda that name ultimately needed to change. And this moment with these two buildings and the need to do that connection was an opportunity for that.
I'll just add another detail too. Initially, we started out thinking it would be one name, that it was the Hawke's Bay Regional Museum, and then there might be the name gifted from mana whenua, but it was quite clear fairly early on that if you had the same name for two different buildings in two different locations that had different functions, that wasn't going to work, hence the differentiation with the two, but with a linking name.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Yeah, so I'd just like to add something in there. It certainly has been an issue for the community since day one. Everyone used to say, is it ANZ, ASB, BNZ, TSB, AIG, is it Aon, is it FMG? It sounds like an insurance company or a bank. So I think now's our opportunity to fix that for a better term, because it has been floating around since day one. Yeah. Someone else have a question? Councillor Mawson?
Yeah, just through the chair, thank you. Just on Amakura, the one in Hastings, just wondering, I feel like when you use the term museum, it's an experience, whereas through the workshop and the stuff that we've had done, I was under the impression that it wasn't necessarily that it was more a repository or a storage facility or what's the other word, archive. Just wondering why museum was chosen for that instead of those words.
I'll give a little bit of information from what I know of in the work that I've done, but I think it's definitely a question for these two. So museum work really has two parts. It has the exhibition and the shows and the showcasing of work, but then there's also a very important preservation, archiving and research part to the museum world. And the building in Hastings satisfies that need very well, in fact, on a national level now. So it is part of museum work. There is certainly going to be opportunity for the public to engage in that space and to use it. And it will be used by members of the public in the research space, in education, and for whānau who want to come and wānanga with a piece from the collection or a part of the collection. And they may be items that have a huge significance in terms of where they come from their hapu or their tūpuna. And so there is a very valid part to the museum experience that may be more quiet and studious than the amazing exhibitions that we see currently in the building here in Napier. But I think you both have much more knowledge in that space.
That's part of the naming distinction as well, to separate the wording. So Hawke's Bay Regional Museum is the whole entity, 2 sites with different functions. So the 2 sites will have words like exhibition or education. I've forgotten that there are some words. And then with research and archives, it's storage, research, archives, those sort of words, and the differentiation with the gifted names as well, with Kahukura and Amakura.
Thank you.
Councillor.
Museum's a bit of a catch-all word in the museum world, and we're just a bit cash when we said that.
Tēnā koutou. Actually love the names. I think they're stunning. And a little bit in the weeds, so this is not a question, but perhaps it is a question, that at some stage I'd love our mana whenua to be recorded talking about it, that we can perhaps share that kōrero around, because I understand what the 2 names are relevant to, so I love it. But I also do agree a little bit in terms of getting our public to understand exactly why those names were chosen. But yeah, mihi nui kia koutou.
Thank you for your question. Through you, Chair, we prepared a video of Ngahiwi Tōmoana speaking about the whakapapa of the names. It's nearly 20 minutes long, and he does give the full whakapapa of both names. And we are currently working on a way to ensure that that video is available for those who have a very deep interest in the whakapapa of the names, so that it can be somehow viewed at Amakura and Hastings. We will also find a way to make sure that it is on the website. And because it is so long, we are taking elements of it and putting them into a more digestible form for people who will be interested.
Also, it was circulated to previous council with other papers. These are updates, so we can give you a copy in advance, the link if you would like. It's lovely. It's beautiful. And that speaks to the length of time. There's been update reports every few months on the process and the consultation and workshopping with council, but of course you're new, so you won't have seen it. You?
Mr. Chair, may I just add something? And this is about a point that's been discussed with the joint working group for this project, and that Ngākauakura, or the museum, our museum here in Napier, is still, it's the regional museum. And I think that's really important to keep in mind. And then the new building in Hastings, it's the storage facility with viewing spaces and so on. That will be open with a porphyry on the 1st of May. Thank you.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you. Through the chair, could you guys give us an idea of how you are approaching the cost that is incurred when you rename something or when you go down this track? My understanding is that it's been absorbed into operational budgets that already exist for MTG, and that it's part of the construction cost of the storage facility in Hastings, but I thought that you might just want to touch on that for us. Thank you.
Well, I can go and then you can fill in the more detail. The cost has been looked at over a question of 2 years, especially for our side, for Napier side, and that's around $60,000 operational cost. That's spread over 2 years, and those amounts were not additional funding. We asked Laura and the team to make savings in the existing budgets. And then the cost for the Amakura, that's been part of the project cost. So it wasn't additional.
Just as an addition to that, savings is a nice word for cuts, Themis, thanks. But those funds have been spread reasonably evenly, as he said, over the 2 years, and have been about legal searches on the names and registration, as well as some design work.
So to confirm, that 60,000 isn't just the signage on one building, that's the whole 2 years effort and, like you say, legal. Yep. Yep.
And to clarify, that's the legal side, to get it through legal and the other processes to get the name finalised. We will be coming back to council on a capital project for the signage. For the signage changes.
Is there an opportunity for council to have any involvement with that capital side of what's being changed?
There's existing funding and capital budgets already for that. There's provision made for it, and we're getting quotes at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Crystal?
I just would like, I think the public will be interested if Jess could give us a very quick brief on what the names mean for, because I think that's for, I know because I'm on the working group, but just to share with everyone else.
Both names have quite a lot of meaning, and I think that's often the case with words that come from te reo. And I think there's a beauty to that as well. So amo kura, so first of all, the word kura, we often see it used in schools, but really it means the essence of something, so the purest form of something. Amo are the po that hold up the front of a wharanui, those really thick, sturdy po that hold things up. And amo kura is actually the name of a bird, a red admiral bird. The tail feathers of those birds were held up as a very valuable item and were used in the pare, which is the headdress of nobles, particularly noble women. And amo kura also has a relationship to cloaking things, and there's a feeling in the museum world that the protection of things and the cloaking of things is really, at its essence, what a museum does. Kahukura has a lot of meaning for Ngāti Kahungunu because it was the name of the wānanga, the College of Learning that came with the Takitimu Waka. It's also the name of Kahununu's third son. But kahukura is often aligned to the deity of rainbows, but it's really about showing things off, which fits really well with the building here in Napier because that is where we showcase the taonga. There's also this idea of it being a sort of a divine spark from which all things come. So it's laden with meaning, and I think that's why it took 20 minutes to capture Ngahiwi Tōmoana speaking of the names. A kahu is also a hawk and aligns very well to a whakatauki from Ngāti Kahungunu, so there's a lot of meaning.
Thank you.
No further questions. I'm happy to move this one from the chair. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Crown. Yeah. So this is progress for us with our museum and our storage for a better term. I think from the community's point of view, no one's a fan of rebranding or changing signage, myself included. So while we have to do it right because it will be there for a very long time, I think we need to not go too glamorous and keep it well within our community's price range. Not necessarily our price range, but our community's price range, because it is community money that is being spent. But in saying that, the community have been asking for a change pretty much since day one, and here is that opportunity for us. But if we can keep it to a minimum, that would be fantastic. Councillor Crown?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I support those comments wholeheartedly. I think the the thing when I reflect on the journey that we've been on with this, and it has been longer than 2.5 years, thanks for being on that part of it with us, Jess, is that this piece of work actually has sat at that joint working group level. It's involved a number of partners, and it didn't trigger the need for consultation because it sits at that joint working group level. I think the depth and the richness of the names will, be able to be shared wider once we have a website, a joint website across both the different locations. I think having the words come from the mouth of the person who has gifted those to us makes sense, but on a really practical level, we needed a name. The storage facility needed a name, and we needed a name over here which brought them both together so that there was a collective understanding that together they represent the whole region. MTG is not Napier's museum, it's Hawke's Bay's museum. And that is what the purpose of the names really was about, was creating that connection and making sure that our people in Hawke's Bay understand that the collection is theirs, whether they live in Central Hawke's Bay, Hastings, or up in Wairoa even as well. So, this is a great milestone to have reached, basically ratifying a decision that already exists, that we've made, but it's lovely to be able to share it wider with our community as well.
Anyone else wish to speak? Nothing. Right. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Agenda item 3, adoption of the Hawke's Bay Water CCO foundational documents, and that's on page 18 of the agenda. We've got a few people sitting up today. We've got Bevan, Russell and Andrew, and they're going to present the paper this morning.
Maureen and Mr Mayor and councillors. I'm the Regional Manager for Waters. Russell Bond, off to my right, and Andrew Libiota. And Andrew's been involved in this process for about 2 years. I'm the Johnny-come-lately who've been in this for 6 months. So Andrew actually was involved at the very beginning, all the way through working in the regional entity, and then coming back through to Napier City Council. So he's done a whole lot of work in the heavy lifting to get this to where it is today. So today's paper is around the adoption of the Hawke's Bay CCO foundational documents, which is the shareholders agreement and the constitution. Shut up now, because I could talk all day.
Yeah.
We'll take the papers as read, Mr Mayor.
Yes. Any questions from the team? Councillor Mawson?
Yeah, thank you. Just through the chair. Just help me out here, gentlemen. I'm kind of thinking, obviously, we've had a lot of information. You know, everyone sort of gave a little smile when you said take the papers as read, because we've had a lot of information. But also we've also consulted with our community. But I just want to sort of, things have progressed. And I'm just wondering if, in my mind, I feel like the business model has changed quite dramatically. And I feel like, seeing as we're all around this table wanting what's best for Napier, if you could please just give me a little bit of an outline how you feel about, I kind of feel like through the business model we're getting less for the same amount of money. Can you please help me out with that?
Through the Mayor. Perception, and this is purely perception, if you look at it, there was an assumption that on the 1st of July 2027, there would be a lot more progressed with the transition. And I think this is what started this conversation when Jess Allen had raised the point that we actually thought more would have been done. So, and I think we've discussed this in workshops, the fact that come the 1st of July 2027, there's a transitional team in place and some things are being transitioned. The majority of the transition happens after that. So I think there was a perception on the 1st of July 2027 that 80% would have been done, if that makes sense. In the water service delivery plan, it doesn't actually define how much will have been done.
Yeah, I could probably build on that slightly as well. Through the water service delivery plan, for the establishment costs, we relied heavily on the previous work that Morrison Lowe did for the Three Waters review. And I think just from time constraint and the detail that was required, we didn't invest a lot into what establishment costs would be. So in the past, I guess, 4 months at the regional entity, they were looking at what does that 1 July 2027 operating model look like. And initially, we were trying to achieve more implementation of some of your big ticket items like ICT systems, things that would really allow for that efficiency from day one. I think recently some of that has been pared back just from an understanding of what some of those items actually take to implement. You know, doing a full ICT transition is quite a labor-intensive, resource-intensive task. So to try to have that completed by 1 July 2027, just I think achievability was in question. Other things as well, like customer service requests, transferring billing from parent council to the entity is another really challenging and complex task that would not be delivered by 1 July 2027. That would be a task that would be more in that tail of, you know, year 2, year 3 type thing to bring that into responsibility of the entity. So while I guess it might have that perception, we're not getting as much as we've budgeted for. We never actually had a definitive what are we budgeting for. And at the transition team as well, just lacking that resource. It was quite a lean team that was put together to start fleshing out the program plan, which is really how this transition was going to be executed. And it always did identify that further investigation, especially through dedicated workstream leads, was going to be required to accurately scope, accurately budget those items. As things have progressed, though, learning from other entities that are being established, I think there's probably more clarity around some of those costs would be. Vendors are becoming more confident with their pricing for implementing a new system, what potential transition or implementation timeframes could be. So that's something to be mindful of as well, that while it's not indicated right now for 1 July 2027, there could be the opportunity that it does actually meet that deadline because the actual implementation is not as complex as once thought. Like Waikato Waters, for instance, I believe are implementing a full new ERP system for their go-live date of 1 July 2026. So just trying to take those learnings from other entities as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Brownlee.
Through the Mayor. Hey, could you explain to us how the debt of each partner is going to be ring-fenced in the system, please?
Through the chair, what will have to happen is prior to the actual transfer of debt and assets, quite a bit will have to work through that transfer agreement process. So really the first process is adopting transfer principles, is really high-level things of what is actually going to get transferred and what's not. And for some of that, it could be that excess property, for instance. In terms of debt, what would have to happen is a recalculation of the starting debt position of each council. And then as well, it would be an agreement between council and the organization of the amount of debt and when it would be transferred. It shouldn't be assumed that all debt would be transferred on day one. That actually might not be the best for the organization's long-term financial metrics. It could be that debt is transferred over 3, 4, 5 years, ensuring that the organization meets the required financial principles set out by legislation, but also not hampering it with a high level of initial debt that would actually potentially increase charges to consumers if it was preferred or it was more beneficial that that debt retained with council. I think if you used Hastings as an example, Hastings has a credit rating, so for them to hold that debt might actually be a lower interest in the meanwhile while the entity is getting established. So, and again, that's something that as it's that transfer agreement, and I need to stress that that's an agreement between council and the organization. It shouldn't just be assumed that all debt will be transferred on day one.
Through the chair, is there any chance of equalisation or anything like that? How do you see that?
Through the chair, I believe the foundational documents prevent any equalization of debt for, I don't know if it's in perpetuity. It is outlined in the, I believe it's either the Constitution or the shareholders agreement, that that's an extraordinary decision, that needs unanimous agreement of all councils to do away with any of that ring fencing. That would then be harmonized. So the foundational documents ensure that ring fencing is in place until unanimously decided at a council level that it would not be.
Thanks, Andrew.
Councillor Morley.
Yes, following on from Councillor Brownlee, I understand that there could be over $500 million in debt that's transferred to the new entity on day one. What in the Constitution prevents all of that being transferred on day one? And as you say, it might be drip-fed over a few years.
I don't think there is any. Yeah. Through the Mayor, it's as Andrew said, it's part of that transfer agreement where councils and the entity have to agree. So there's nothing in concrete that says on day 2 this much will go, and on day 3 this much will go, and in year 5 this much will go. So there's nothing in there at the moment. So it's going to be agreement through the councils and through the entity. So the councils and entity may agree the whole lot goes across. Did you want to?
Supplementary through the Mayor? Or
No, carry on. And then I'm going to Councillor Simpson.
right, I'm not an accountant, I'm an engineer. There's a potential for 800 million of transferred debt and also debt-funded projects that may be lumped on day one at the $39 per, I think it was 20 million loan that we're looking at. It works out at $39 per household, per connection. So we're looking at potentially $1,500 each household to service that debt alone. Would that be correct?
Sorry, thank you. I believe, I'd have rough calculation, yeah. We've just got to understand too that debt's already been serviced by each individual council at this moment. So it is really just transferring the mechanism of income and debt and just the management related to the water activities across into the entity. And what Andrew and Bevan were relating to was based on how we're going to be measured through the Commerce Commission and some of their metrics. Moving all of that debt may not be beneficial for the entity to comply with some of those metrics to start with. Mm-hmm. All of that detail's yet to be worked out as we transfer across. So, but in the end, all of that debt would and should sit with all of the activity. So it needs to go across and the activity needs to financially stand up on its own. So as per the water services legislation. So it needs to be self-funded. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you, Russell.
Yeah.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. My question relates to the foundation documents, and it probably could be a question I ask for the next 3 agenda items equally. My question is, you guys are our chief advisors and your legal people provide us good guidance. Following on from the questions that have been asked so far, my question would be, is there any clauses in this document or the following 3 agenda items that cause management any concern that we should be aware of before we make our decision today?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is going to have to be either a CE or a Russell question.
Yeah.
So through the chair, these have been through the transition governance group. They've been through legal advisors. So I don't think there's any we wouldn't have tabled it if we didn't feel they complied with everything that our expectation was of the process.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Lawrence.
Through the Mayor. In your opinion, are there major benefits going with the regional water model or Napier doing it on its own with its own standalone CCO? Do the benefits?
So probably best if I answer that. Obviously, we've provided lots of information. It's a complex matter. And ultimately, the evidence that we've put to you with all of the different modelling, that's the best officer advice that we can give, and it's really a council decision. Thank you.
Any further questions? I've got one that I might just throw in the mix here, especially following on from our discussions yesterday. What rights do mana whenua have with the CCO side of things? Is that able to be answered?
Yes. So, as the documents stand at the moment, once the entity is stood up, mana whenua have existing rights under the treaty, and they can have representation on the shareholder representative forum. But aside from that, we're basically standing up a utility. So it's a Waters CCO, but essentially it's a utility. So apart from those, there's no other rights.
Yeah, so if I can add to that, because there's a slight difference between the water reform under the Labor government and the local waters done well under the National Coalition. Under the water reform, there was definitely a desire with co-governance, and whereas the local waters done well framework has removed that out of the process, but it doesn't stop any local councils or water entities creating that through the shareholders representative forum in the regional sense. So, but it's just it's not set in the legislation.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? We might do Councillor Price and Councillor Crystal. Councillor Price, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I'll just keep it pretty brief, really. We've thrashed this out pretty hard with workshops. I guess I go back to the consultation we did on this, where we got 666 people answered the consultation, and I think it was about 80% wanted us to go with the regional water identity. Now, we often get accused of not listening to the public. Well, to me, this is very clear that this is what the public want to do. We've modelled figures, and we've had, even last Friday, Martin Jenkins, and there's not a lot of change in those figures. And I don't think we could have workshopped it much more. For the new councillors that weren't here last term, the consultation was done. You can read that, you can see it, you can see the whole lot, and you can see the answer from it. And by that, I don't accept that you say, well, I'm new to the council and I don't see it. Go and have a look at the consultation document. It's quite clear. It's available to everyone and very clear in what it did. I feel this we still have local control and decision making, and we are still close to the community. The ownership of assets stays in the company. We're not giving them away like the previous Labor Party Three Waters Done Well, or whatever it was called then. So we still keep it. It's a combining of the three councils, Napier, Hastings and Central. And it's been through all the direction. As the CEO said, it's been tested by all of the CEs, mayors, and they're sound documents. I guess I sort of make the point that being a little bit bigger, I don't think would hurt at the moment with the way the war is going, because things won't be as easy to obtain. And common sense tells me bigger companies will get, within reason, will get service over smaller companies because they're bigger clients. And also I think reputation. We've committed to this. At no stage have we indicated to the other parties we're pulling out. And they've all agreed and they're ready to go, and it's over to us deciding whether we sign these documents or not. But that I'm not going to talk on anymore. I do get a right of reply, which is quite good. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Crystal.
I'd just like to, before I speak, put in an amendment to the recommendations. I'd like to add an H to the recommendations. I've sent it through to Gemma, so I'll just read it out. It requests that the Chief Executive, in collaboration with partner councils, develop and report back on a set of transition principles and ways of working, including expectations relating to transparency, decision-making, accountability and stakeholder engagement, to guide inter-council and governance arrangements during the establishment phase of the Hawke's Bay Water Services CCO. And the reason for this is one of the cons in the paper was the uncertainty for partner councils in the establishment of the transition governments. So I think this helps to alleviate some of our concerns in that space.
Councillor Price, are you happy with that amendment being added?
Yes, basically it's just to clarify how it all happens. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But with some clarity.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Am I allowed to speak to that, or what's the process that you'd like us to run with there?
Well, I think the recommendation on the table now, because it's been moved and seconded, is the recommendation that we speak to now.
Yeah, and so happy for me to...
Yep, sorry.
Sorry.
Councillor Price.
I hadn't actually answered completely.
Oh, sorry.
No, I just the comments of the CE on the adding of that. Does that create any implication?
Yeah, so through the chair, I'm just trying to digest it because I don't know how much control I will have to achieve that. So I guess it's just in respect of the wording. So I can ask so if the others are not requiring this, obviously the in collaboration part might be difficult because that bit's the bit I can't control. So I can provide you a report back on what the interim CE, so obviously once you've signed these shareholder documentations potentially, oh sorry, Bevan, you've got some comments?
One of the things we're putting together at the moment is a transition agreement, which does cover off a lot of this. It's what councils can and can't do and what the entity can and can't do. So we're using DIA's template for that, along with what Waikato's done in their agreement, for what it's worth.
So I guess we could look to putting that statement in the transition document, if that is you're wanting us to do that.
I think it just...
Okay. Councillor Price.
It is requesting our CEO to do it, so I don't have a problem with that. It's just where it can go to is difficult for the CEO. That's all I was thinking of. But we can request her to do it and to put it into that document you're talking about, no problem at all.
Yep, and maybe the CE can just report back to us as it goes to see what information and how it can be done.
Yeah.
So you're happy? You're happy?
Yep.
Councillor Crown?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Good working it through, guys. I feel heaps more comfortable with an addition and understanding the transition agreement and the pathway that we have in play with that. In my mind, it has been almost death by information. I think what you said before, Councillor Mawson, we have workshopped this to within an inch of our lives. And in my mind, there's always been sort of two, or at one point we've split into two sort of pathways. There's been, is the entity designed to achieve the purpose that it is set out to do, which is to increase scale, to increase surety, to provide confidence in the management and the ongoing investment in what are incredibly important assets for our community. And then there is the transition. And that, to me, is where the devil in the detail sits. It's actually in how you manage that. So if the entity and the design is correct, then that says to me we should have some confidence in signing off on these agreements, the paperwork in front of us. The transition is the bit that gets me. And so understanding that there is support from government, from DIA to put that together, that we seem to have an idea collectively that that's where the risk sits for us, and that we are being pragmatic and logical about the levers and the tools that we have to be able to manage that transition as best as possible, because there's a bit of crystal ball gazing still, you know, understanding what can be achieved by the 1st of July 27. To me, those are two separate things. So I think trying to do the best thing around transition, yes, we have to do that, but back to the core thing, have we designed, or is the entity designed in the right way to achieve the purpose and the goals that that we set out for? And I think it is. So I'm happy, especially with the addition of H, and happy to support us signing off on these documents today.
Right, I'm gonna speak next. Got a bit of a book here. Right. Today I will be voting not to support this recommendation that essentially hands our water over to a regional CCO. While I say regional, that no longer includes Wairoa, as they have pulled out, seeing little value in this model. We consulted on all 4 regions being in. The setup is not progressing how we envisaged. Now plan to take 2 years longer than originally thought, surely eating into any proposed savings. The multi-council CCO will be at arm's length to ourselves and to the community, and we will become a minority shareholder with only 33% say. This is a long way from where we were as water as our number 1 priority, now relying on others to prioritise our needs for us in the future, either in a positive or negative way. That, to me, is not accountability. This is not a shared service, it's a CCO. The numbers. There may be some benefits down the track for Napier, but they sit in the margin of error. And I've read reports like this before at council, some saying that a velodrome and $110 million aquarium numbers stacked up. We also had ideas like wave pools and deco buses, and I'm sure they all stacked up. Now, there's a lot of talk about efficiencies and scale. To me, where the water CCO may gain some efficiencies, those will be counted within council, then losing its own efficiencies by being made smaller. To that, is bigger better? Or regional models in Hawke's Bay? No. Think regional buses, civil defence during the cyclone. Think regional policing with Napier having no cells. Think our regional health model that's failing Napier. All have failed. Why would the community expect this to be any different? Bigger equals more bureaucracy. Look at the Auckland Council amalgamation. They had a target to save 1,200 jobs. The actual was no net reduction. They had a target to save $100 million with this scale. Actual was $90 million increase, including 53% increase in staff who were earning over $100,000. the management bubble. So bigger doesn't equal better. What would happen in a crisis or a weather event in Napier? Currently, the whole city services team are available to man pumps, clean screens, etc. We can draw on lawnmower guys, animal control guys. That may no longer be available. As a different organisation, we'll have different health and safety trainings and obligations and liability, meaning less boots on the ground for us, potentially. I believe we can go as a single council CCO. We have a water safety plan. We can financially deliver on that plan. And we now have the organisational setup to deliver that plan. We have the right people in the right place ready to set it up if required and run it. Bringing 100% control back to the people of Napier and their representatives. Napier being in control of their priorities. We would then be better able to direct shared services with the single council CCO, such as the lawn mowing of reserves, fleet services, engineering, health and safety, payroll, IT, stores, and even our reserves team. We'd be able to work, I think, more directly with our own CCO. The latter would actually help remove confusion over who is responsible for what part of a reserve, whether it's water or whether it's a park. That alone would keep our scale from reducing. We would have 100% control over our future. Now, many councils have gone it alone. The perceived pressure from government to combine no longer appears to be there. Depending on what numbers we use, there's anywhere from 22 to 30 councils who have gone it alone, including Wairoa. Now, there was talk about price harmonisation. It would only take a change of government or a change to legislation that could mean any ring-fence debt would then be shared by all three councils. And with the figures we've had, Hastings comes in with 351 million, CHB with 85 million, and ourselves with 105 million, I guess, when this was written. Napier residents would not be the winner here. A single council CCO protects from that. If there was price harmonisation, we would be the only council to harmonise with ourselves. This is the start of amalgamation by stealth, where we become a minority. Well done to Wairoa for seeing this early. You've already seen decisions that have favoured Hastings. Water needs to be our number one priority, not someone else's. That's all I've got to say there. Everyone else who would like to speak for or against the recommendation?
Can I say my seconding?
Did you not get that opportunity? Sure, sorry, you've spoken up.
You want to get him that book?
Well, I'm speaking in favour of the recommendation, and I think today marks an important step forward in the establishment of our regional water organisation. It's a significant moment for Napier and Hawke's Bay. This decision has not been made lightly. It's an enormous amount of work by staff and councillors over the past 6 years, and it has got us, that has got us to this point, and that effort deserves to be acknowledged. While the signing of the foundational documents and the provision of delegations to the Shareholders Representative Forum members are significant milestones, it's important to remember that this decision did not happen in isolation. The joint operating model was publicly consulted on in May and June 2025, and the community spoke clearly. With 79% support in support of proceeding with the regional model for the delivery of water services. That is a strong mandate, and as a council we had to listen. What we are doing today is honouring that direction. Approving these foundational documents and the delegation is not just procedural, it's fundamental. These are necessary steps towards the incorporation of Water Hawke's Bay Limited and the delivery of a more resilient, efficient and future-focused water service for our region. This is about getting on with the job. It's about ensuring that we have structures in place to meet the growing challenges, support our communities and deliver essential services in a way that is sustainable for the long term. This is more than just a decision, it's a commitment to the future of water services for the people of Napier and Hawke's Bay.
Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also am going to speak in favour of the recommendations. Over the period that we have discussed this, there's been quite a lot of discussion. There were tensions between the managerial functions and the philosophical reason for establishing a regional water entity. I don't think things have changed significantly, and we've had some assurances and will have some control over those managerial functions or those tensions. The financial modelling by two separate consultant companies indicate that there will be efficiencies. I accept these may not be in the first few years, but in the long term, these efficiencies will be achieved. As Councillor Crystal has said, this is a major decision for the future supply of our water services across the whole region. And we need to think long term, not short term, in relation to this decision. We will have the opportunity to have mana whenua representation as part of the shareholder agreement, and Hastings have obviously dealt with that already this week, and quite a lot of media coverage in relation to it. To say we will be a minority shareholder is actually not right. We will be an equal shareholder with all others. We will have 33%, as will the other organisations. Not one organisation will have the power to make a decision. They will need the cooperation of others to go forward. So 3 of us at the table, 3 of Hastings, 3 at Central, you need the cooperation of the other parties to make any major decision. So I don't see us as a minority shareholder. We must look at the future, and this is a monumental decision for the future of water services in Hawke's Bay. Thank you.
Yep. I'm just going to suspend Standing Order 21.6, which limits the number of speakers. So I'll just make that a note, and I'll go to Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, concurring with the views of others, I want to be clear. Initially, I was opposed to the regional model, and I supported a single CCO owned and operated by Napier City Council. Through the process and over the time of listening to staff advice and guidance, seeing new reports and information, I tend now to agree with our public consultation, which was strongly in support of a regional model. I do want to clarify 2 things that I've heard through this debate. Shareholding and decision making are 2 different things. Our shareholding is 45% of the organisation. Our decision making is 1/3 equal share to the others around the room. So I think we have to be very clear about that. We do not reduce our level of ownership of assets. We are still a 45% shareholder, with Hastings being a 45% shareholder and Central Hawke's Bay being a 10% shareholder. So let's be really clear who owns and who benefits from the asset ownership. The decision making is another thing, and that'll be subject to time. We will see how the maturity of the organisation develops and how their decision making over time impacts on our community. But as a councillor, having listened to our community, I have shifted my mindset, and I am in support of the regional model. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, right. Then Councillor Morley.
Through the Mayor. I'm speaking against the motion. The first thing I'd like to say is thank you very much to all of the staff that have been involved in this. It's been a very, very long process, and I really appreciate the candour and the transparency and the information that you've been providing us for many, many workshops and lots of sessions that we've had. The issue for me is that the consultation last year was based on a report, and a recent report was presented to us just last week that indicated that the financial gains, the costs, the efficiencies were rather overly optimistic. And we're looking at a 25% variation. This was admitted in the workshop last week, 25% variation. So the gains that we potentially might get from a regional entity actually fall into the margin of error. If we're talking about a 1% efficiency gain in 3 years' time and then 1% thereafter, we're talking about margins of error. So I do not believe that a regional model is going to be as efficient, more efficient or less efficient than a go-it-alone model or a Napier CCO on its own because of the margin of error. I would be quite happy for us to take the position of a Napier CCO or go it alone because we have the opportunity to join a regional entity later on if we can see that there are efficiencies and cost savings for us to get on board with them. There's nothing preventing us doing it. There may be some penalties involved, but we can still join them later on. At the moment, this is still very, to use the pun, fluidic. There's a lot of change, there's a lot of transitioning going on, and there's still uncertainty. I would be more comfortable sitting back and actually seeing what goes on and watching the ride than actually committing straight off. So to sum up, basically, our ratepayers have been paying rates for our water services and our water infrastructure for over 150 years. And I do not believe that we should be giving away our assets to a regional entity when we can quite easily go it alone as we have proven. Napier provides some of the cheapest water solutions and delivery in New Zealand. I believe that we're efficient enough and we can actually do the job on our own. Thank you.
Councillor Isaac Charlin.
Through the Mayor, and just before I start, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Richard, for enabling all of us to get a good chance to talk to this very, very important kaupapa, so thank you for that. I'm speaking for the motion. I thought about this morning. Water for me, for all of us actually, is the most basic need for humans. It is so incredibly important and so valuable for us to live, to thrive. Clean water is the thing that will do that for us. A key reason I support a water entity, aside from the mandate of the majority to do this, is climate resilience and the reality of what's coming. We have ageing water infrastructure and significant costs to renew it alongside increasing climate events. If we stay as we are, that burden continues to fall directly on our ratepayers and the cost will only keep growing. And I must disagree with you, Mayor Richard, sometimes bigger is better. We've already seen what scale can do. During the 2023 Auckland Anniversary Weekend floods, Watercare Services Limited was able to mobilise quickly and respond across the region. Although this wasn't a perfect endeavour, it showcases the strength and potentiality. And closer to home, Cyclone Gabriel showed us the true cost, over $13 billion nationally, with our region facing hundreds of millions and in some cases over $1 billion in recovery and resilience costs, not to mention the loss of life. About the full cost to rebuild, without putting that full cost straight onto our communities, because at the end of the day, this is about ratepayers. So when we're looking at the full cost to rebuild, my preference is not to put that straight onto our communities. A water entity spreads the cost over time and across a larger base instead of potentially forcing sharp increases onto households. I do acknowledge there are concerns around accountability, cost to users, and ensuring, for me, mana whenua are meaningfully involved. But again, I believe these are design challenges, not reasons to walk away. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Lawrence.
I'm speaking against adopting the foundational documents, and just want to reply to your statement, Keith, about with us new councillors in last year's consultation. We have read them, and I think that Napier people should be really happy that us councillors actually do listen to our consultation submissions. But however, I believe that we have, from the last consultation, we are that much further down the track with a little bit more information. And with the cost of the initial cost of establishing this, and it is on the higher end compared with around the country and other regions. I'm confident that Napier's ability to manage its own water services, the benefits of that, the benefits of a regional model and the Napier CCO potential of a standalone, the benefits don't outweigh each other necessarily, and I'm happy with ensuring that we are Napier-centric, not Hastings-centric. Again, it's, we don't have a crystal ball, we can't guarantee all that stuff, but yeah, and I think I'm here, well, we're all here for Napier ratepayers and Napier citizens, and for me, to go it alone is the more preferred option.
Anyone else wish to speak? No?
Yeah, I will.
Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, just through the chair. Yeah, like others, I want to acknowledge staff on this. There's been a huge amount of work, and also bringing it to us in an unbiased way as well. I want to acknowledge you for that. Also, want to acknowledge my colleagues around the council table here. I mean, as Councillor Lawrence just mentioned, that we do want what's best for Napier, and as Councillor Crown mentioned, we kind of are doing a little bit of crystal ball gazing here, and we need to make a decision on basically modelling and assumptions. Now, a few of my colleagues here have mentioned about consultation with the community, and as Councillor Lawrence just mentioned, what our job is to take that on board, but also look at any other information that's been provided to us, and sometimes that can change how we feel about that. And I think that's right that our community knows that that's what we do. For me, we have had a little bit of progression since our original look at the regional model. And with the information that I've received of late, and this has always come into these debates with an open mind, but the information that I've received of late, I'm going to speak against the motion.
Councillor Brownlee.
Yeah, this is an intergenerational decision made here, and it's been very complex, I find. I'm comfortable with the way it's headed, with one entity being a collaboration between Hastings and Central Hawke's Bay at this point. I think it's. I think when you look at water, it comes from the hills and it goes down to the sea, and Napier's an island, and we need some assurity that our water's going to be good and pure and clean for our next generations. And when you see the submissions coming at 79%, I think that's probably an indication as well that that's where our community wants to go. And I think as long as we have the right people on those boards that are protecting the interests of the community, I think that's probably the key thing. And probably the major thing at the end, this is about collaboration, and this will be a major test for everybody.
Councillor Raihania.
Through the Mayor, I don't want to repeat anything else that's been said already, but I am speaking in support moving forward with the decision today on the basis that that we must be equally strong in what is expected in return back, transparency, but also the visibility for our communities. And on that basis, I'll be supporting joining the regional.
I think we've gone around everyone now. Right. Sorry, yeah, right, a reply.
I'll keep this pretty brief, and I just want to reiterate the work that council staff have done. It's been pretty trying, and you've stuck to your guns, trying to get opinions out of you. It's been really hard work, and telling us we've got to be politicians. So the first thing, Kura, you're not going to go out with that without an answer. Are you saying that, oh, no, I'm not
Go
asking you.
on, don't ask, you just, yeah.
Yeah. I think that we need to listen to people in consultation. 660 people and 80 odd percent is quite high from my experience. I think amalgamation might have been a bit higher. But I'll tell you what, there's not much more up about that. There's been nothing come out to suggest that that was misdirected consultation. It was clear that's what the people wanted. And that's one of the things we've got to do. We did it last year with the library. We listened to what people said and we changed things. And we got a lot of reporting back. So I don't agree with that I think it holds a lot of weight, the consultation document. As to the Mayor, the change in government, I mean, that's crystal ball gazing with what we're doing, I think. But you did mention some things that we haven't done. I probably mentioned Park Island was one thing we have done. Parklands is one thing we've done, which has been great investments. Probably Parklands would be the best investment. So we have done some good ones too. Martin Jenkins, I thought that last Friday when they spoke to us, showed that it is beneficial for Napier down the track to go with this. I don't think I need to say any more. Just once again, I think this has been good. There's been good debate. And when we get off the rugby paddock, we have a beer together.
You'll shut. Because it'll be cheaper than water.
Certainly fuel.
Right, we've been round everyone. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
No? Can we just do a show of hands there? That's probably easier. Yep.
Could I have that noted? Thank you, Your Worship.
They'll be noted. Yep. Right. How about we just take a 5-minute break, eh? let's come back from our adjournment and we'll head straight back into agenda item 4, and that's local water done well and statement of expectations of the process, and that's on page 29 of the agenda. And we've got our 3 presenters up here again. Andrew, who else have we got there? Bevan and Russell. Wow, doesn't sign up with the run sheet.
Wow.
My run sheet has different names.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this paper is the Local Water Done Well State of Expectation process. So this is setting up the process to develop the statement of expectation for the new water entity. We're asking you to receive the report and approve the process for setting up the statement of expectation. Once the company is incorporated, which follows the foundational documents, we have 6 months to set that statement of expectation. And we'll take the report as read.
Any questions? Councillor Crystal.
Just as far as the shareholders go, can you please, in the statement of expectations, can you give us an indication of what their kind of roles will be and where they fit in the process, in the decision-making process?
So through the Mayor, the statement of expectation process, putting the statement of expectation together falls back on the shareholder representative forum. So that's the 3 representatives from each council. And it falls on them to put this together within a 6-month period. And we're talking about the statement of expectation process.
Yeah.
Any further questions or discussion? Can I have a mover and a seconder for the recommendation, please? Deputy Mayor Taylor. Sorry, and Councillor Simpson. Deputy Mayor Taylor, would you like to speak to this?
Yes. This isn't really a decision-making tool. This is actually the process that goes towards a decision-making tool. So it's very procedural, and I'm happy to move it.
Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. I think the diagram in the report sets out nicely who has what roles and responsibilities in this process, and I think it's a clearly articulated system, so I'm more than happy to second this motion.
Do we have anyone else who wishes to speak for or against? Right, a reply?
No need.
Nothing? All right. We'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Councillor Morley's against. Can we please record that? And that is carried. Right. Agenda item 5, Hawke's Bay Water Services CCO establishment budget. That's on page 35 of your agenda. Same 3 presenters. If you head on into it, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is to receive the report around the establishment budget to set up the water entity. And we require approval to have the transition budget approved so we can carry on with the transition. I think as it says in the paper, the total program budget is 14.2 million with a contingency of 3.35 million. Make it as read.
Yep. Any questions or discussion? Councillor Crown.
Thank you, through the chair. Just wondering what mechanisms are in place to manage cost escalation during establishment, and what would the triggers be for reporting to come back to council?
Through the chair, some of that escalation thresholds are outlined in the program management plan. I can't think off the top of my head of what that variation is, but it's looking at setting certain escalations that are manageable within the program team itself. But certainly any severe escalation would be managed up through the SRF, and then it depends on what mechanisms are put in place between this council and its SRF for that level of reporting to ensure that there is proper governance. I guess it will depend on the delegations to the SRF.
Thank you. Right.
And what's the expectation of bringing back to council as either an informed or an approving mechanism for substantial changes. It should be noted, I think, that that total program budget of the 14.2 million and the contingency, that really just reflects what was modeled through PwC and outlined in the WSDP. So that's really that hard ceiling, that if that gets breached, any of the efficiencies that were outlined through the modeling then become, I would say, in jeopardy, or any breach of that is higher than what was forecast, and then you could anticipate higher than projected consumer charges that were used to inform our consultation document and the modeling.
Thank you. Supplementary, if I may?
Yep.
Thank you. And would there be anything or any mechanisms within the transition agreement that would trigger through to the SRF in regards to this expenditure?
Through the chair, the transition agreement is still in development, but we could take it as a note if you'd like to look to incorporate budget reporting and having that outlined and the decision-making process within that transition agreement.
Thank you. I would like that as an action if you're in agreement with that,
Yep.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. Sorry, Russell.
Yeah, no, through you, Mr Mayor. It will be, excuse me, just like the previous resolution H, with the request to be transparent, and yeah,
Thank you.
so we'll be asking that of that through the agreement. Yes,
Great,
absolutely.
great. Thank you.
Councillor Morley.
Through the Mayor, I will be voting against the motion. This is really part and parcel of item 3.
Let's just hold fire a bit here. Have we got a mover and a seconder? Yeah, no, we haven't.
Sorry.
Yeah, questions or discussion? Holding for now? Cool. Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Question. I'm not sure who may be able to answer this, but section 1.8 of the report, prior to recommendations, at the time of writing this report, the Transitional Governance Group has not yet considered the budget. Any feedback from that meeting will be provided verbally at the council meeting. So is there any further information around the budget considerations that we should be aware of?
So through the chair, obviously, both the mayor and Councillor Price are on the TGG, so they may have some additional views, but I don't believe there were any further actions from that meeting, unless Councillor Price.
I haven't got any, and I don't think Councillor Price was listening. So nothing at this stage, I don't think. Deputy Mayor. Any further questions? Councillor Lawrence.
Through the Mayor, and just for the purpose of informing the public who may be watching or listening in, what does this program management plan that this budget's covering cost in general, just to give ratepayers an understanding of what their dollars and cents is going towards?
Through the Mayor. So this establishment budget is to, there are 7 work streams through the program that are being set up. This is to fund the 7 work stream leads, the support people in behind that, which is around about 26 staff in total. It is to establish ICT costs, potential ERP system, and preparing that from the 1st of July 27, the entity is ready to start transferring staff across. There is also development of SLAs back into the relevant councils, because on day 1, councils will still be continuing to do some of the work, and we'll just set up SLAs back into the entity. I'm pretty sure that covers it.
Yeah, nothing really further to add. It's just essentially the work streams into the facilitation of that. The ICT and ERP systems would probably be the biggest question mark around further expenditure and what's achievable for that 1 July 2027.
All right. No further questions, except for Nigel. Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, I just want clarification. and for the sake of our ratepayers, I see in the notes, and if you can please confirm that this matter, the 14.2 million, has no impact on our ratepayers or through the rates, because it will be a debt taken under Hastings District Council. We are simply guarantors, and ultimately the CCO will take on that debt. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, but I suppose it being understood that the debt will be repaid by Napier ratepayers eventually. So that debt will be funded by Hastings in the interim. It will be transferred over to the CCO, but the CCO will have to recover the interest and principal of that debt through its future water charges.
Through the Mayor, and will that be 45% of that?
Through the chair, that is correct, yes. Yep, our shareholding percentage.
No further questions. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please?
Yep.
Councillor Crown, do I have a seconder? Councillor Crystal, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you. Just briefly, I think that the discussion has been really good, picking out key points, especially from our ratepayers' perspective. I suppose this is what makes the car go. We've decided that we've got the car, so let's get it going. Thank you.
And yes, just briefly, through the chair, this is obviously you need some money to put some petrol in the car, and quite expensive at the moment. And you know, obviously, this is ratepayers' money. This is a water entity, but still ratepayers' money at the end of the day. And so, any efficiencies that can be found, I would like to think that the new entity will and the transitional group will find as many as they can.
Anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Morley.
Deja vu. Through the Mayor, I will be voting against the motion, considering what I've spoken about in item number 3.
Yep, duly noted. Anyone else wish to speak? Write a reply to the mover? No. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, agenda item 6, Hawke's Bay Water Services CCO Shareholder Representative Forum. And the same presenters as before. Right, what have you got to present to us?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors, for your time and patience. So now we're going to talk about the Shareholder Representative Forum. And as we've discussed, each council who is a shareholder in this gets 3 representatives, and there'll be an independent chair appointed. The purpose of this is, just so we run through their responsibilities one more time. So the SRF will be responsible for providing governance and oversight to the Water Services CCO and coordinating shareholder input. So that's back through parent councils. Monitoring the performance of the water entity, providing input into the water services strategy and annual budget, preparing a statement of expectations, we talked about in a previous paper, appointing and reviewing the performance of the board, and providing coordinated feedback and recommendation to shareholders. Right. As per the paper, with the 3 members, each council is required to have a minimum of 2 representatives and a maximum of 3. Of that, 1 must be an existing elected member, and the other 2 can be to be sought however the individual council seeks to do that. There's a recommendation that at least 1 person represents mana whenua. And following along the lines of the other councils, there's a skill matrix developed which we feel would be useful in selecting people. Take the rest as read.
Right. Thank you. Any questions from the team? Right, this one's going to get a little bit messy for us as we try to fill in those gaps of who's proposed to go on there. So
I'd like to move it with an amendment to those gaps,
Absolutely.
in that the chair of delivery and regulatory is one member, the deputy mayor, and mana whenua.
Yes.
I'm not sure how we get around the first one I said.
True. That's right. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Crystal? Right. Would you like to speak to that or hold?
Well, I guess when you look at it and you listen to what has been said by the officers, I think if you're on the, you're representing Napier Council, and I think the work starts now, really. Well and truly, there's a lot to be done, and there are little bits and pieces that people are not happy with, and it's a matter of sorting all that out and getting on with it.
Yeah. Councillor Crystal?
Yes, I think those roles are very important. They are our voice at the table, and we need to make sure that they're going to go into bat for Napier in the best way possible.
Absolutely.
And Hawke's Bay.
Would anyone else wish to speak for or against this? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Price has put forward this recommendation that includes an elected member, a chair of our Delivery and Regulatory Committee, mana whenua, and the Deputy Mayor, which is the position I currently hold. I am happy to be involved at that level. However, I think we have the opportunity, once this is stood up, that we can change the representation relatively quickly. And I think at that point in time, having one elected member, which is the chair of the Delivery and Regulatory Committee, mana whenua, and I think we should take the opportunity in the future to go to market and have an independent person representing Napier who may have a background in governance and a background in water services. So that's the comment I would like to make, that this is the initial appointment process, and that maybe into the future we look at amending that with having a independent person representing the community with and meeting the skills matrix that is being developed.
Great, yeah. Did anyone else wish to speak to the recommendation? No? Right, a reply? Oh, sorry, Councillor Brownlee?
Yeah, I'd just like to say Keith's been on this process all the way through, and I think it's very pertinent that he stays there. He knows the workings of it, and he's been there through the whole process, and then he is a councillor of long standing. So I think that's good for Napier. Yeah.
Better than saying old.
I mean, I was there.
Right. Write a reply. if there's no other speakers. Yeah. No. No. Right. I'll now put the motion on the table. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Recording Councillor Morley. Carried.
Once again, thank you for your patience.
Right.
Thanks, team.
We'll swap our presenters out here.
He's not here at the moment.
Yeah.
Just move on.
Right, agenda item number 7, dangerous, affected and insanitary building policy. That's on page 52 of the agenda. The presenters are Alexandra and Malcolm.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
You can just call me Alex.
Alex, that'll work.
So through the chair, I take the report as read, and we are just seeking approval for the specific changes highlighted in the draft and endorsement for the proposed special consolidative procedure.
Any questions or discussion? Nothing. Right. I now call for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Morley, Councillor Mawson. Right. Would you like to speak to this, Councillor Morley?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Mawson?
Oh, just thanks for all the work, team. Excellent.
Great. Anyone else wish to speak? If not, I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Oh, thank you very much.
You don't get a right reply if you say nothing. That was... Agenda item 8, Ahuriri Investment Management Statement of Intent, page 64 of the agenda. The presenter for this is Craig Kenny, and he's coming up now.
Good morning, all. Through the Mayor, just we'll take the paper as read. It also comes with an attachment of the Statement of Intent from Ahuriri Investment Management. We ran that through the Corporate Performance Governance or Committee meeting on the 4th of March. Asked for feedback on that Statement of Intent that runs from the 1st of July 25 through to June 28. The feedback received on that was to include a stakeholder engagement matrix, which has been included now. So would like to, I just recommend we receive my report and then approve the Statement of Intent with that amendment.
Any questions or discussion on this paper? That's easy. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Oh, this is it. Deputy Mayor Taylor, Councillor Crown, would you like to speak to that?
Thank you, Worship. And as the elected member currently sitting on the AIM board, I think it's, it's a crucial document that outlines the statement of intent for the organisation. I think, one of the most important parts is what the purpose of AIM is and set out in the objectives of the organisation. That primarily the objectives is about intergenerational investment portfolio, better use of that portfolio that builds long-term financial resilience, and more importantly, or as importantly, reduces future reliance on ratepayers for funding council activities. And it's been a very enjoyable first stage, and we've got to the stage presenting or providing the statement of intent for the next 3 years. And let's hope we can meet those requirements and assist in our long-term plan funding proposals. Thank you.
Councillor Crown.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Deputy Mayor Taylor around the purpose. I think it's time to go. Formalising the statement of expectations and there back to us the statement of intent. It's a milestone. I guess signalling for the future. One of the things that I have been considering with AIM is, what does success actually look like? Yes, there is the dividend aspect, but it's, in my mind, looking at and getting an understanding of what they are tackling on behalf of the ratepayer and behalf of us as an organisation is how do we balance those commercial returns and the wider development outcomes that they are seeking. So I think that in future years, it will be around how we manage that risk, especially as they take on a more active development role. But yeah, great first start, I reckon. So happy to support it.
Any further speakers for the recommendation? Right or reply?
No, I'm fine.
Oh, sorry. Got to be quick around here today, Roger.
Yeah, sorry, through the Mayor. Yes, I think they're going to put a commercial eye across everything, and I think that's very good for the Napier residents. I think, yeah, that's probably all I've got to say.
Right. Right or reply? I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Thank you.
Almost halfway there. Agenda item 9, Hawke's Bay Civil Defence Emergency Management Group Joint Committee Terms of Reference, page 70 on your agenda. The presenter, we've got Thunis and Mike up with us today. All yours, guys.
Thank you, Your Worship. Tēnā koutou katoa. Through the chairs, so the purpose today is purely procedural. The joint committee joint committee terms of reference have been refined. This is an ongoing refinement process and will continue as part of the Hawke's Bay CDAM transformation strategy. It's worth noting at this point that also contributing to that further refinement will be any changes that are required as part of the emergency management bill progress through the select committee process. I'll take the terms of reference as read.
Right. Any questions from the team? No. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation?
Right.
Councillor Simpson, and do I have a seconder? Councillor Morley. Councillor Simpson, would you like to speak to this?
Yeah, only to say through you, Mr. Chair, that this is purely procedural. The aspects of the terms of reference are clear and simple, and they'll help us contribute well to the broader CDAM environment.
Councillor Morley.
Yes, I agree with Councillor Simpson, and I'd like to say welcome to Napier, Mike, and welcome to CDAM. Thank you.
Any other speakers for or against? Right to reply, Councillor Simpson? All good? Right. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Roll. Right. Agenda item 10, elected member appointments on page 70, looks like 78 of the agenda. The presenter for this report is Anna Eadie.
Kia ora koutou. The purpose of this report is for Council to consider proposed elected member appointments to the Delivery and Regulatory Performance Standing Committee, an external community group appointment, and a liaison role with an external community group. Seeking today in the recommendation to appoint Councillor Price as the chair of the Delivery and Regulatory Performance Standing Committee, the appointment of Councillor Mawson as the deputy chair of the same committee, appointing Councillor Crown as the Napier City Council representative on the Great Wine Capital Steering Group, and Councillor Isaac Sharland as a liaison councillor to the Ahuriri Estuary Protection Society. Happy to take questions.
Any questions, team? No. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
Yes.
Councillor Crown and Councillor Brownlee. Would you like to speak to that?
No need to, thank you.
No need. Councillor Brownlee?
Fine.
Anyone else wish to speak for or against? No. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried.
Then you get the drinkies.
Agenda item 11, elected members 2025-26 remuneration pool, was it reallocation on page 81 of the agenda? And Anna's with us for this one as well.
Through the chair, this report is to provide council with the opportunity to redistribute the pool set by the Remuneration Authority for Napier City Council based on the changes to elected mayor responsibilities. So those being the change in deputy mayor, the new recently appointed chair and deputy chair of the Delivery and Regulatory Performance Committee. Happy to take questions on any of the report and the process.
Right. Any questions? No. Oh, Councillor Mawson.
Yeah, just through the chair. Just so this doesn't wind up in the paper as another pay rise, could you just briefly outline how this all works, please, Anna?
Sure.
You get a pay rise.
The Remuneration Authority are an independent body who, through looking at the size of a city, population, assets, socioeconomic factors, allocate a pool, an amount to each council. And this is to be split between the elected members, depending on roles and responsibilities that are given at the start of the triennium. It is not something that Napier City Council is able to influence. It's an independent process. It's worth noting that the mayor's salary is separate from this process, but that is also determined by the Remuneration Authority, not by Napier City Council. So we submit the pool split between the elected members to the authority, and they then review it and make sure that they feel that it's fair in regards to what responsibilities each elected member has. And once they approve it, it will be gazetted.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Any further questions? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Raihania and Councillor Mawson, would you like to speak to that? No? Councillor Mawson? No?
Good enough.
Right, would anyone else wish to speak to this? Right. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Agenda item 12, local governance statement, and it's on page 85 of the agenda. The presenter for this report is Anna yet again.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the Chair, this report presents the local government statement prior to it being made public as required under the Local Government Act. The local governance statement, the Local Government Act requires that a council prepare and make available a statement within 6 months of any election. This is to include things like the functions, responsibilities and activities of the council, any local legislation that confers powers on that council, the bylaws, electoral system, representation arrangements, members' roles and responsibilities, amongst a number of other things. It's a living document, so it's updated as needs be. And the changes that have been made to it since the last election are minor, include such things as the new governance structure and changes to our executive leadership team, elected members, bylaws, etc. Happy to take questions if anybody has any.
Questions? Right. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Mawson, and I'll be happy to second it. Yep. Councillor Mawson, would you like to speak to it?
Just procedural, but thank you for the work.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add. Would anyone else wish to speak to it? I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Agenda item 13. Ngā mā nuka nuka o te iwi recommendations for approval. And we have Anna Reedy still with us to present this.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the Chair, the purpose of this report is to provide the recommendations that require ratification by the Council from the committee. Their meeting was held on the 1st of April. The full minutes are going through the approval phase at the moment, but these two recommendations require council ratification so that the people that it affects can be notified and they can attend the correct meetings. So we're looking at the appointment of a deputy chair for Ngā Mā Nukunuka o Te Iwi, and also an item on the nomination of appointed members to standing committees and specialist committee for the triennium. Happy to take further questions.
Any questions? Happy to move. Councillor Crown, Deputy Mayor Taylor, would you like to speak to this?
Yes, just very briefly. Wonderful to have those members be, I suppose, ratified, but also selected at that meeting. It was a really full meeting, so great to have sort of all the roles filled out. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Taylor.
Yes, I'd like to make a couple of comments. One, very pleased to see that the Mayor has been appointed as the Deputy Chair of that committee, and that the appointments have been made to the standing committees, and as they will come into effect as of today, I'm sure Kirk and Evelyn will be able to attend Councillor Price's meeting next week of the Delivery and Regulatory Performance Committee.
Anyone else wish to speak? Right. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Agenda item 14, risk and assurance recommendations for ratification, page 89 of your agendas. The presenter is Anna yet again.
Thank you. I will take this report as read. There are 2 items there for ratification by Council. Thank you.
Right. Any questions or discussion? Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Crown, Councillor Mawson. Would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thank you. One of those items is the audit plan for 25-26. We have a new auditor, Ernst & Young. If you get the opportunity to have a look at the minutes, the audit plan that they presented to us is probably the best audit plan that I've seen since I've been on council, so would recommend that you just cast your eyes across it, and hopefully it will give you a lot of confidence around the process that's going to be undertaken for that audit. So kia ora.
Councillor Mawson? No. Anyone else wish to speak? No, that's simple. No?
It's all right. I just made the comment, I hope we get a timely report. We always seem to be waiting for these things.
Right. I'll now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Agenda item 15, action register as of the 24th of March 2026, page 143 on the agenda or near on. Yet again, the presenter is Anna Eadie.
Thank you. Through the Chair, I'll take this report as read. You will see a lot of the actions in the register have been completed, which is great. Happy to take questions.
Right. Any questions, team? No, off lightly. Do I have a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Councillor Price, Councillor Rahania. Councillor Price, would you like to speak to it?
No, it's all good, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Rahania. No, anyone else? It's easy. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Agenda item 16, draft minutes of the joint committees. It's on page 148, and the presenter yet again is Anna Eadie.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to present the unconfirmed minutes from recent joint committees. We have 2 sets of minutes from the Transitional Governance Group, February minutes from the Joint Waste Project Steering Group and March minutes from the Ahuriri Regional Park Joint Committee.
Any questions or discussions on any of this? No? Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Mawson, Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Mawson, would you like to speak to this?
I'll just congratulate Councillor Isaac Charlin on her appointments in those committees, a couple of those committees.
Councillor Lawrence.
Just acknowledgement to the councillors on these groups and the extra work and time that they put into it.
Yeah. Anyone else wish to speak? No. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. Agenda item 17, official information requests as of 17th of March 2026, and that's on page 202 of your agenda. And yet again, Anna Reedy's here to present this one.
Thank you. Through the chair, I'll take this report as read, but happy to take questions.
No questions. I'm happy to move that from the chair. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Mawson. Yep, I've got nothing to add to that, Councillor Mawson. Any further questions from the floor? Or anyone speak for or against? No. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right. There's no minor matters. That concludes this part of the meeting. And I will now ask the public to step out if they could. We have none here. And so
Just happy to move to go into PX.
we've got to get to that now. We'll now move into public excluded section of the meeting. Can I please have a mover? I've got Councillor Mawson. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Brownlee. Thank you. I will now put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Right, we'll take a short adjournment. Double fence there.